You know, there's a certain stereotype when we talk about the construction
Oh,
industry.
yeah.
You picture a guy with a truck, a ladder, maybe a magnetic sign on the door, and the whole operation feels, well, let's be honest, it feels a little transactional.
Transactional is a polite way to put it. Usually it just feels fragmented. You hire a guy to fix a thing, he fixes it, hopefully, and you never see him again.
Right. But the stack of documents we have today,
Right.
this is different. We are looking at internal history
Mm-hmm.
docs, customer feedback, strategic outlines for a company called Safeguard Construction.
Mm-hmm.
And if you squint, it doesn't really look like a standard contractor story.
Mm.
It reads more like a Harvard Business School case study on career convergence.
That is exactly how I read it. This is not just we hammered some shingles. This is a story about two completely parallel tracks starting almost 20 years ago in totally different professional universes that eventually collided to create this sort of superorganism in the home improvement space.
We're talking about the story of Kevin Schultz and Obed Perez. And our mission for this deep dive is to unpack how a rough-and-tumble storm restoration expert and, a polished corporate retail specialist ended up joining forces.
Right.
We're going to figure out how they built what they call an ecosystem for home protection.
And I want to flag that word ecosystem early because in this industry, ecosystem is usually just a buzzword people throw around.
Yeah, marketing fluff.
But here, looking at the source material, they're using it to describe a very specific business strategy, vertical integration.
Vertical integration. I mean, that's a term we usually hear with Apple or Tesla.
Hmm.
What does that mean for a guy fixing my roof in the suburbs?
Well, traditionally, you have a roof guy, a window guy, and an insurance guy, and they don't talk to each other.
In fact, they often blame each other when things go wrong.
Exactly. So what we're seeing in these documents, specifically the history of this partnership, is an attempt to bring all those fragmented pieces under one roof. But to see how rare that is, we have to go back to where they started, the magic year.
Okay, so let's set the scene. 2006. Kevin Schultz is in the Chicagoland market. He found Safeguard Construction. But looking at the early company profile, he isn't trying to be a general handyman.
No.
He picks a very specific, very chaotic niche.
Storm restoration.
For the listener who hasn't dealt with this, how is storm restoration different from just, regular construction?
It's night and day. Regular construction is planned. You decide to remodel your kitchen. You look at samples. You schedule it. Storm restoration is reactive. A massive hailstorm hits a zip code, and suddenly thousands of homes are compromised.
Wow.
It's high volume, high stress, high urgency. You aren't just selling a product, you're managing a crisis for someone.
And the document shows Safeguard was successful here right out of the gate. They became a top-tier firm. But here's where Kevin separates himself from the pack. Fast forward 10 years to 2016. He does something that I honestly didn't know a contractor could do.
He gets his license as an Illinois public adjuster.
Okay, we need to pause here and really unpack this. Because in my mind, an adjuster is the person the insurance company sends to my house to tell me, no, that's just cosmetic damage.
That is the cynical view, but now, it's often accurate. See, when you file a claim, the insurance company sends their adjuster. That person is paid by the carrier. Their job is to assess the damage, yes, but implicitly, their job is also to manage the company's risk.
So minimize the payout.
Basically, yeah. There's an inherent conflict of interest there. The person deciding how much money you get works for the person giving you the money.
Right.
Now, a public adjuster, which is what Kevin became, works exclusively for the policyholder, for you, for the homeowner. But getting that license, Kevin essentially crossed enemy lines.
He stopped being just the guy with the hammer.
And became the guy who could interpret the contract.
That seems like a massive leverage point.
It is. The source text actually mentions a red flag warning on their site, noting that insurance companies often discourage hiring public adjusters. And, well, why?
Because a public adjuster knows the code.
They know the game. If the insurance company says, we'll pay for half the roof, a public adjuster like Kevin can say, actually, according to Illinois statute and the manufacturer's specs, you have to replace the whole thing because the shingles are discontinued.
He's weaponizing the fine print in favor of the homeowner.
Precisely. And he even wrote a book about it. It's a free ebook they distribute. So that's Kevin's track. Technical field knowledge meets high-level insurance strategy. He is deep in the weeds.
Okay, so Kevin is out there fighting insurance giants and fixing hail damage.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, in that same year, 2006, Obed Perez is on a completely different planet.
Right.
He's wearing an orange apron.
At the Home Depot, he's a millwork windows and doors specialist.
Which sounds humble.
It starts humble, but look at the trajectory in the documents. He moves to Lowe's in management, and then in 2011, he lands at Pella Corporation.
A Pella years.
Yeah.
He's there for 12 years.
And this is crucial context. Pella isn't a chuck-in-a-truck operation. This is corporate America, high-end manufacturing. To succeed there, you can't just be a smooth talker. You have to live and die by metrics.
You're dealing with complex supply chains, custom products.
Very expensive custom products, yeah.
The documents highlight that in 2018, he won the President's Club Winner Award. I usually gloss over awards in these bios, but you flag this as significant. Why?
Because of the criteria. Obed's own account in the source text notes that this award wasn't just about sales volume. You couldn't just sell $1 million of windows and win. You had to meet strict metrics on customer care and follow-through.
So he was being graded on the process, not just the result.
Exactly. It separates the transactional salespeople from the true consultants. This tells us Obed plays the long game. He's detail-oriented. He understands that in the high-end window market, the relationship doesn't end when the check clears.
So we have these two archetypes, Kevin. The storm fighter, the insurance expert, the guy who thrives in chaos, and Obed, the corporate consultant, the metrics guy, the customer service perfectionist. They are operating in the same geography, Chicagoland, but they seem, well, incompatible.
You would think so. But this is where part 2 of the story kicks in, the intersection. The documents mention they knew each other for about 10 years before they formally merged. They met in the field.
That phrase, in the field, always sounds so dramatic.
In this industry, they basically were in the trenches. Picture this. Kevin is handling a massive insurance claim. A house got hammered by hail, the roof is shredded, but the windows are also damaged.
And I assume roofing and windows are totally different languages?
Completely. Roofing is structural. Windows are these intricate thermal envelopes with moving parts. And here is the kicker. Insurance companies hate paying for high-end windows.
They'll try to find the cheapest replacement.
Always. So Kevin is stuck. He knows the roof, but he needs ammo for the window fight.
Enter Obed.
Enter Obed. The source text is really specific here. It says Obed was skilled at negotiating subtle differences or handling discontinued elements.
Discontinued elements.
Okay, break that down for us. Why is that such a powerful lever?
Let's say you have a specific Pella window from 2008. Aluminum-clad wood, specific tint. That model isn't made anymore. The insurance company says, here's $500 for a vinyl window from a big box store.
Which doesn't match anything.
No. So Obed steps in and says, no. The code requires, like, kind and quality. You can't put a vinyl window on this house. You have to pay for a custom unit that matches the thermal specs, the cladding, and the aesthetic of the original.
So he turns a $500 payout into a, what, $2,000 payout just by knowing the specs?
And he ensures the homeowner gets their home restored properly. That is why he became indispensable to Kevin. He was the window whisperer for Kevin's insurance battles. He provided the technical ammunition Kevin needed to win.
It's interesting, though. Obed didn't just jump ship immediately. He eventually left Pella, but he didn't go straight to Safeguard.
No, he went independent first.
Yeah, this independent phase is a key bridge. The text says Obed felt he needed to do more for his customers than a corporate structure allowed, but also he wanted to learn the business side, marketing, advertising, media presence.
He was building a toolkit.
He was. He actually helped a previous company double their sales numbers. This proves he wasn't just a sales rep. He was a business operator. He was learning how to generate leads, not just close them.
He was essentially finishing his personal MBA in the real world.
You could say that.
Which brings us to the convergence point.
Yeah.
2025. The merger.
And the timing is everything here. Safeguard Construction, Kevin's company, had dominated the storm market. But storm work is volatile.
If it doesn't rain, you don't eat.
Right. They wanted stability. They wanted retail opportunities. That's the industrial term.
So proactive work.
Proactive. It's a homeowner waking up and saying, I want to upgrade my windows for energy efficiency, regardless of the weather.
But Kevin, the storm guy, doesn't speak retail.
He does not. Storm creates urgency. Retail requires seduction. It requires education, patience, and that customer-first polish that Obed spent nearly 20 years refining.
So they launched the window and door division at Safeguard, with Obed as the general manager.
And it wasn't just hiring a buddy. It was a strategic download of DNA. Obed brought the retail DNA that Safeguard needed to become a true one-stop shop.
Let's talk about this one-stop shop concept, or as they call it, the Safeguard ecosystem. Because looking at the service list in the docs, it's It's a lot.
It is extensive.
We've got residential roofing, commercial roofing, siding, gutters, multifamily services for condos. But it's not just the list. It's the philosophy behind the materials.
Right. This is where the insight gets granular.
Hmm.
Most homeowners look at the price at the bottom of the estimate. Safeguard is trying to get them to look at the line items above the price.
There was a specific detail in the reviews about 15-pound paper versus synthetic water barriers. I think a
Wow.
lot of listeners might glaze over that, but it seems really important.
It's critical. 15-pound felt paper is technology from the 1950s. It's basically paper soaked in asphalt. It rips, it wrinkles. If it gets wet before the shingles go on, it's useless.
It's the bare minimum,
The bare minimum required by code in many places, and it's cheap.
which is why some contractors love it.
Of course, it keeps their bid low. Safeguard uses synthetic underlayment. It's woven polymer. You can't tear it with your hands. It's waterproof on its own. It breathes so your attic doesn't rot.
So when the documents say superior materials, they aren't just saying our shingles look nicer.
Yeah.
They're talking about the engineering underneath.
Exactly. And for you, the homeowner, that is the difference between a roof that lasts 15 years and a roof that lasts 30. It's about risk mitigation.
There's another piece of this ecosystem that really surprised me. Safeguard Solar LLC.
The sister company.
Why is this separate? Or rather, why is it integrated? Because usually solar is a whole different beast.
This is a huge pain point in the modern market. You have solar companies who are essentially tech sales companies. They hire subcontractors to slap panels on roofs. They drill holes through your shingles to mount the racks.
Which I assume voids the roof warranty.
Almost instantly. And here's the nightmare scenario. The roof leaks 3 years later. You call the roofer. He says, solar guy drilled a hole, not my problem. You call the solar guy. He says, roof was old, not my problem.
And the homeowner is stuck in the middle with a bucket.
That sounds miserable, yeah. By integrating Safeguard Solar with the roofing division, they solve the one throat to choke problem. One team handles the integrity of the roof and the energy production.
So we have the theory, we have the history, but does it actually work? We have a stack of reviews here, actual customer feedback, that I think grounds all this in reality.
The reviews are fascinating because they are consistent. They don't just say, good job. They mention specific behaviors that map right back to Kevin and Obed's backgrounds.
Take Sarah Martinot's review. She specifically shouts out Obed. She says he was overly communicative and had a way of keeping things calm.
Calm. That is a word you never hear in construction.
Right. Construction is loud, messy, and stressful.
So where does that calm come from? That's Obed's corporate training. That is the President's Club winner, managing expectations. He knows that if you tell the customer what's happening before it happens, anxiety goes down.
He's not reacting to the project. He's managing it.
Exactly.
Then there's Eddie G. He said Obed will not try to sell you anything you don't want.
That is the anti-salesman approach. And frankly, it's a luxury that comes from success. Because Safeguard is established, they don't need to desperate sell you a window you don't need. They can focus on the long-term relationship.
It builds trust.
Immense trust.
Now, the most data-heavy review comes from Dick Riederer. I feel like we should send Dick a thank you card.
He did the math.
He says he got multiple estimates. Safeguard wasn't the cheapest. They weren't the most expensive. They were the median estimate.
The Goldilocks zone.
But he specifically notes why the other guy was cheaper.
Let me guess. The cheap guy was using that 15-pound paper we talked about.
Bingo. The substandard material. So the cheaper bid wasn't actually a better deal. It was just a worse product.
Correct. And on the flip side, the most expensive bid probably had huge corporate overhead baked in. Safeguard hit the sweet spot. Superior materials, but at a median price point.
Dick also mentioned something that speaks to their discipline. Installation day came, and it was pouring rain. They rescheduled.
Now, to a listener, that sounds annoying. I took the day off. But think about it from the builder's view. Rescheduling costs money. You have a crew sitting idle. The temptation to just push through and slap the roof on in the rain is huge.
But trapping moisture under a roof is catastrophic.
It's the worst thing you can do. By rescheduling, they took a short-term financial hit to ensure the long-term quality. That is operational discipline. That's putting the ecosystem above the quick buck.
One last review I want to highlight, David Pogorski.
Yeah.
Because this one circles back to the very beginning of our story.
With Kevin.
With Kevin and the insurance claim. David says his insurance company mandated he replace his roof. Safeguard didn't just send a quote. They supplied me with all the proof necessary to satisfy the insurance com.
That is the public adjuster DNA showing up in the workflow. A normal roofer sends a number. It costs $10,000. The insurance company says no. End of conversation.
Right.
Safeguard sends proof, photos, code requirements, manufacturer specs, wind damage reports. They speak the language of the carrier.
It's a full-court press.
It is. And looking at their footprint now, this model is scaling. They aren't just in Aurora, Illinois anymore.
No, the docs show them in Cottage Grove, Wisconsin, and operating in Indiana as well. It's a multi-state operation.
Which is difficult to pull off while maintaining quality. Usually when contractors expand, quality drops. But because they have this standardized ecosystem approach, they can replicate it.
So let's zoom out. We've gone from two guys starting separately in 2006, one climbing ladders in storms, one selling doors at Home Depot, to a vertically integrated home improvement machine in 2026. What's the big takeaway here?
I think the lesson is about the death of the generalist. For a long time, we hired general contractors who knew a little bit about everything.
Jack of all trades, master of none.
Exactly. The Kevin and Obed story shows a shift toward specialized integration. You have deep vertical expertise in insurance claims, that's Kevin, and deep vertical expertise in retail service and windows, that's Obed.
And when you combine those,
You don't just get a contractor, you get a risk manager for your home.
that's a powerful shift in perspective. You aren't buying a window. You're buying the integration of that window into your home's envelope and your insurance policy.
Precisely. And in a world where extreme weather is becoming more common and insurance policies are getting trickier, you can't really afford to have a fragmented team working on your biggest asset.
It really makes you think about that stack of business cards we all have in our junk drawer. The gutter guy, the roof guy. Maybe the future is tossing those out and finding one partner who understands the whole system.
That's the question everyone should ask before signing that next estimate. Are you hiring a desperate seller, or are you hiring a partner who understands the ecosystem? The story of Kevin and Obed suggests that the latter is the future.
A fascinating look in how careers can converge to build something lasting. Thanks for walking us through it.
My pleasure.
That's it for this deep dive. We'll see you next time.